Hey, welcome to an Automation Ladies live episode. We have today with us the Tick Chick, Emily Merritt, and also part of our team here at Automation Ladies, and also part of our organization team for OT SCADACon. So hopefully you already know who Emily is. And also the founder of Clear Lead Marketing. So yeah, Emily wears lots of hats, like many of us. And she's been an amazing member of our team in many ways for the last couple of years. And we first met her at Automate. And I don't remember how many years ago it was. It feels longer ago than it was, I think. But the story is that she catfished us because she's so good at B2B marketing on LinkedIn that we thought that it was the owner of an automation company that wanted to meet with me and Allie. And turns out it was actually Emily that made that meeting happen on that CEO's behalf. And so her results spoke for her for themselves from the very first moment that we met. And we really liked her style and her personality and all the things. And so we eventually ended up working with her. But what we didn't know at that time is that Emily has an entire prior life before she came into the industrial automation industry and a master's degree. Is that right, Emily? Am I getting that right?
Yes.
In wildlife sciences, focusing on ticks and tick-borne illnesses. And she knows all the things about ticks. And as we've kind of grown our community to different, systems integrators that we know, especially here on LinkedIn, shout out to Jimmy DeTraglia and a few other people that like to hunt and go out in the woods. And then meeting Megan Chapman, the wife of one of our speakers at OT SCADACon last year, who has dealt with tick-borne illness, who unfortunately she was, if you saw the graphic, she was supposed to join our discussion today, but unfortunately had an emergency and is not able to be here. But that is kind of how we roll. We, in our jobs, and then also, personal life stuff comes up. But we decided to just go ahead and do the episode, and Emily is now the star. And she's like, this is so weird that I'm the guest because normally I'm behind the scenes. So with that, hi, Emily. And hi, Courtney. And hi, everybody else, if anybody's watching. Hi, Frank.
Yay, Frank. Thank you. Tick power.
Power.
And we have a new thing. There's a new feature of StreamYard where not only can we bring the comments on the screen, but now they kind of show here on the screen as well. So we're giving that a try. So anyway, if you're joining us, please say hi. Tell us where you're from. If you've ever been out in the woods and had anything to do with ticks, or are you learning about them for the first time? Tell us anything. It's kind of the deal with these things. It's, yes, we talk and you get to learn from us, but we also get to learn from you, and you guys get to learn from each other and network with each other. So yay, hi.
Hi, Dad. My dad's in the comments. George.
Yay. Hi, George. He's been on our lives before, even when Emily wasn't the guest. So we appreciate you being here, George. And David Turner, another one of our speakers from Automation Ladies. Awesome to see you. You've got Juan, you're from Florida, right? Or in Florida right now. I don't know. Are there a lot of ticks in Florida, Emily?
Oh, yeah.
They're just everywhere, right?
They're just everywhere, yeah.
Wherever.
Okay. And then we have Courtney with us today. Courtney, how are you?
I am vertical today. And that is all I'm promising.
Look, I made a little post on LinkedIn earlier this week. I had some personal stuff happen over the last couple weeks, and I kind of fell into a little bit of a pit of anxiety. And Courtney flew out to Texas and kind of came to prop up me and Allie for a few days. And she
is that what the trip was about?
Yeah, she came and helped me with my housework, and she helped me fold laundry. And honestly, it's something that I could never ask somebody for, but Courtney.
I forced myself onto you.
Honestly, you kept me and my household afloat. You kept me sane, and I really appreciate it. And so I'm glad that you're still standing and you're back. Looks like in your element in the office back in California today.
Yes, made it in kind of early in the morning, and did some stuff with the kids. Actually, I just tore off my PTA volunteer sticker, so. They don't know how tired I am. I just have to be vertical. So that's all I'm promising. I can be vertical for an entire day.
Jim Condry is joining us from Massachusetts. Hey, thanks for being here, Jim.
Jim, where are you in Massachusetts? I'm in Walpole. And you know how bad the ticks are up here.
Okay.
Well, that's a whole, we can get into that.
Yeah, let's get into that. Well, let's kind of, even though this is a live and it was meant to be more of a panel discussion, we'll kind of treat this more like an Automation Ladies episode, and we will do this discussion sometime again, maybe in the fall or whenever we have time in our live schedule to have Megan on, because I think her story is something that we want to help get out, and she's also the amazing photographer that captured all of the goodness of OT Skatacon last year. So even though she's not in industrial automation, her husband is, and she got to spend 2 days, I don't know, observing us nerds doing our thing. And I would love to just, as a 5-minute side note of her episode talking about ticks, ask her what the heck you think of us weirdos. But that'll be an episode for another day. So today we're gonna treat Emily like a podcast guest. So Emily,
it's so crazy that I feel like I've been helping you guys kind of run everything behind the scenes for so long, and then to actually be on here, I really do thank you so much. Okay, so Jim might actually be able to share some insight with us because he's had Lyme a couple times, and that's a common thing you see. And Jim, we're about an hour away from each other, so that's super cool. So yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on, and of course, thank you guys so much for just bringing me into your world, because it's been a really great experience, and there's just so many people that are part of your community, and just funny. I wouldn't have a social life right now if it wasn't for you guys. So, and all of the OT Skatacon speakers. So just a little shout out for OT Skatacon. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, you probably should, because we've got 15 left. And prices are probably going to go up about a month ahead of the actual event, which is in 2 weeks. So, the event's in 2 weeks. A month from now from the event is in 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, so that link is www. It's important not to skip the W's. Albert, though, you should try to help us get away from needing the W. I don't know how
he has. I don't know what's going on.
It's still okay. So www.otskata.com. If you search for OT Skatacon, you'll find us, hopefully, but that is the official URL. And there are tickets still available, but not very many. So, yeah, okay, we'll get into your story. But Jim has had Lyme a couple times and was the first Lyme case in Washington.
Well, somebody else, some LinkedIn user whose name is not displayed, which is okay. But
okay, I misread that.
So that's a really interesting thing.
That name is Jason Weiss. Thank you, Jason.
Oh, okay. You can see that. Cool.
Oh, okay. For some reason, it's not.
I have it open in LinkedIn as well. It doesn't show on StreamYard, but it does show on LinkedIn.
Okay. Yeah, there's some sort of setting for that.
It's a weird thing that happens to us sometimes. It doesn't show us your name.
Thank you for sharing. And obviously, so I just want to open this by saying, this tends to be a really passionate topic for people. And so anybody out there who wants to comment about their experience with it, that's great. Because as a disclaimer, luckily, knock on tickets. I see what you did. As a disclaimer, knock on wood, I've actually not diagnosably had a tick-borne illness yet, despite all of my experience, which I'll go into. But I have, in my time doing research on ticks, had a lot of conversations with people, and it can be absolutely devastating. And I'll talk about this in a moment, but what Jim mentioned about having Lyme multiple times, that's something that people you don't realize you can actually have. And it's a really important thing. And then, being the first case of Lyme in Washington, that, it's like COVID when everybody was first getting it and nobody knew what it was. It is a thing where they didn't know what it was for a really long time. And, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it started becoming more of a thing. So anyway, but obviously I'm not the disease expert. I'm more of the wildlife ecology side of things. But so I'll just go into a little bit about myself. So as Nikki graciously introduced me, my name is Emily Merritt. And my life has kind of taken me in an interesting trajectory. But how it started was I was actually a wildlife scientist. And I do have my master's degree in wildlife sciences. I used to run a bunch of research projects. And I was out in the woods a lot. And I had this experience actually when I was, it was like an internship in between undergraduate and graduate school where I was actually on Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. And there was this couple that would come a lot to this site that I used to do research on. And it was a really beautiful beach area with this, it's called Ice House Pond. If you've ever been on Martha's Vineyard, not Myrtle Beach, Dad, you're in my head. There's like, it's surrounded by salt water. It's an island in the Atlantic Ocean. And in the middle of it though, is a freshwater pond. And it's created by a spring, and people used to go there. It was like a really exclusive kind of like off the beaten path place. But there was this couple there. This was probably when I was 20 or 21. Yeah, 21. And this is like how it started. This is how my passion started for ticks. So this couple would come, and the wife came first, and she like kind of ran down the hill to get to the beach. And she goes, "Oh, be on the lookout for my husband. He's coming after me." And this dude, who I think at the time was in his 40s or 50s, he looked fairly young, and he was walking like an 80-year-old man, like this, just like super slow.
Cool.
And I was just like, he just kind of came, and he had a really good attitude. He's like, "Oh, I walk like an old man now." And I was like, "Why?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I've had Lyme disease really bad. And it's just like really affected everything. But my wife and I have been coming here for years, and we still try to make it out here." And it really just stuck with me that you have these like fairly young people who one races to the pond and the other one takes their time. She was just like, "Peace, you're on your own." But he was like really kind of like not frail necessarily, but just like really, really like obviously like hurting. And that's probably the only time in my life I was ever like so profoundly hit with something. And I just became like fascinated with like the whole idea of things. And then at that time I started hearing like my boss had Lyme disease multiple times, and someone said a quote, "Oh, it gets easier every time." And I was like, whoa, that is nuts to think about. But like each time you got to take like crazy antibiotics and stuff. And I remember one time in that job that I had, I used to wear shorts out in Massachusetts in the wild, just like wear shorts. And I remember one day I counted and I had like 98 ticks on my leg attached.
Wow.
And I was just like, "Oh, isn't this funny?" Just picking them off, like not even thinking anything of it. And like that summer just kind of really changed my life. And I just always had it in the back of my head that I got super nerdy about like ticks and tick-borne diseases and just like fascinated with it. And so fast forward, actually, after I graduated with my degree, right as I was finishing my degree, there were a lot of people, I don't know who I started talking to about, but it seems like there was Lyme disease down there and other tick-borne illnesses, but nobody really talked about it. Then I started doing more research and finding out that that doctors really didn't treat it down there because they didn't think it was a big deal. And because Lyme wasn't a big deal down there, they didn't really think about anything except for maybe Rocky Mountain spotted fever at the time, which is another tick-borne illness that can actually kill you if you don't remove the tick within like 3 days or a couple days. And that's a whole other, that's different than Lyme, but it is curable, whereas Lyme's a little bit more curable-ish. That's a whole other thing. I'm not going to get into the nuances of that because it's really controversial. But what I will say is like doctors down there really weren't paying attention to it. And so I actually ended up putting on this, well, we thought only similar to like kind of OT Skaticon, we thought only like 50 people were going to show up, but I did. And this is funny because at the time I was doing scientific research, but I actually had marketing in me. I reached out to a bunch of local newspapers, news outlets. I put in like PR spots and what is it called, like press releases in like a bunch of places, and word just spread. Like I was also at the time. Shout out to Kevin Wolf. He's a good friend of mine from Alabama. He had just started the Alabama Lyme Disease Association around that time, and this is actually kind of funny. The story of how we met was their website stunk, and so I reached out to him and I was like, "Hey, your website sucks. Can I help you update it?" And this was like, again, mind you, I'm doing like research actually at the time on horseshoe crabs for my graduate degree. And I reached out to him about like in retrospect, I'm like, oh, was I always supposed to be doing marketing? Because I was kind of doing marketing stuff at the time. And anyway, we only thought like 50 people were going to show, and it ended up being standing room only. I think we don't know actually how many people ended up showing up. but I believe it was like 100 to 125. We didn't have enough seats in the room. And actually it's able-bodied people, healthy people ended up having to get up and give their seats to people who had tick-borne illnesses. Like it was a show. And we had like this display down in campus on the campus green where we were like interacting with students and like we gave out free prizes. We had like catered food for the people who ended up doing a tick discussion we had invited speakers who were experts in the field come and talk. And so it was like a really like cool half day event. And after that, he was the department head of the State Fish and Wildlife Agency. And he's like, I always suspected that I had Lyme disease. And now after coming to this event, I am convinced I have Lyme disease. He goes, if you want to create a research project around this after you're done, I will give you whatever money you want. And so then after I graduated with my degree, I basically started the tick-borne illness project, which is essentially doing surveys of ticks all throughout Alabama. So I literally drove all over the state collecting ticks and just trying to see like what's here, where are they, what kind of habitats do they live in, and all that stuff. So that was my previous life. In some, sorry, I know that was kind of a long dissertation on my existence, but
yeah, that's what we live for, though, is our special interests, the discussions that get us so passionate that we could talk about them for an hour or two or three. And yeah, I think that's, many individuals are multi-talented, and having to pick one thing for a career for the rest of your life is not for everyone. And I think sometimes,
unfortunately, for people like us,
yeah. And then, I think picking your profession at the time you leave high school and go to college is, I don't know how, I don't think that works for everyone. Like, I've never grown up. I still don't know what I want to be when I'm a grown up, and I don't think I ever will. So I just kind of go with my gut and like things I'm interested in. Other people I think have, everybody's different in the way that they do things, but I tend to gravitate towards people because probably identify with them in some way that have this kind of multi-varied background and can't help themselves but either reinvent themselves or do something different or learn a new skill. And you definitely struck me as one of those people, because when we first met, you kind of, I don't know if you told us much about this background or not, but then hearing also, so tell us how the heck you got into industrial automation and to the point in which we met you at Automate.
Okay, yeah. So, and then I also eventually want to circle back to the tick stuff for people who don't know, so we can make this educational, because I've got a bunch of props. Yeah. And then, oh no, he's still deflating, but I have this old Lyme disease awareness guy that I painted. When I told Albert I was breaking him out, he was very excited, but he's obviously got a hole in him. This is very sad. He was all.
Oh, let's do that part now while he's still got air.
I'll blow him up if I need to. But
hey, I also just want to give a quick shout out to some of our audience here. Vince, thank you for joining us in Connecticut. All right. No need to excuse your tardiness. This is a come and go as you please type situation. Jimmy, hey. So yeah, I mentioned you in the beginning because I knew you had signed up, and this you're one of the people that kind of made this feel relevant to the automation audience. Ticks kind of affect anybody that goes outside. So we should all know this. There's awareness.
Even if you don't go outside, even if you never leave your house, there's actually ticks that can live in your walls.
Oh, no, you just...
Okay. I did not even know that, Emily.
But then we have Jimmy giving some insight to Lynn. Love this, you guys interacting in the comments. And Lynn, hey Lynn. Lynn was at OT SkateCon last year. She was one of our helpers. We really appreciate you, Lynn. It's good to see you. And yeah,
she said that she lived in Wisconsin. So they're talking about a very ticky Wisconsin. Which, okay. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I've never really been to Wisconsin, but someone said in the walls.
Yes, and this is new. That there's a comment from YouTube. I've never seen that here before. Yay!
Oh, hello. And hi, USA ABC Fox.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then my dad.
I did not need to know that.
I can tell if you would like. My dad wanted me to mention, I assume by making the comment, that yes, I graduated with my master's degree in Auburn University, which is what brought me from, I originally am from New York and the Northeast, and then I went down to Alabama for my graduate degree for a research assistantship, and then now I'm back in the Boston area again, but, anyway. all that. Creepy invasion. Oh, it gets bad, dude. Like
okay, I want to know, context is key here. Glad my wife isn't watching this with me. I'm not entirely sure because of the ticks or because of us.
It's because of us. Let me see. So I have my reference guide that I created when I was a researcher, and I'm trying to.
Do you have a digital version of that we can link to in the show?
I do. Yeah, I was gonna share. If I talk about any resources, I was gonna share everything.
Perfect.
Right on.
Oh, Albert says, I saw a tick in my rug once when Corn Dog and I lived in LA. And reference, Corn Dog is Courtney Fernandez.
And Albert is the partner.
Yes.
Yeah, so, well, okay, and it depends on, and this is where it gets into the nitty gritty. It depends on what species of tick. So yes, of course, you could find a tick in your rug because it came in on your dog or your boots or your backpack or whatever. But if you start seeing a bunch of brown ticks and there's a bunch of them and they're crawling all over the place, we're talking a bunch, then you have a problem. Oh, ticks figure out hearing that they can live in walls of dry earth. They're crazy. Yeah, people hate when I talk about that.
I'm already feeling uneasy.
I was gonna say, I actually started feeling like itchy after you said that.
Yeah. So it's actually the brown dog tick. So there's several different species of ticks. The American dog tick, which you find commonly on your dogs, especially in the Northeast. I find them on my dogs all the time, especially right now. Those are outdoor ticks. But a brown dog tick is very specifically, they live in and around dwellings. So your cement. Anyway, this is not infestation. This is a blanket statement. Infestation of these types of ticks is not common, but it does happen, especially if you have dogs that go outside and all that jazz. But yes,
normal to just have them when it's not an infestation, to just see them out and about.
Not you'll know if you have a problem. You won't just see. It's kind of like carpenter ants or termites and stuff like that. You won't just see one and it would.
You see the evidence and a huge problem when you have
it. Juan goes
scratching.
No, look, I'm scratching now too.
Maybe we should put a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode when we release it and be like, warning may cause scratching.
They make you feel icky.
Yeah. And let me just say, because we're on the brown dog tick thing, and yes, they do seem to be famous. They get a lot of attention because they're like the vampires living in or the ghosts living in your home type of thing. There are ways. There you go. Yeah, my dogs have ticks constantly. But I'll tell you how you can prevent them. So obviously, if you treat your pet ticks, treat your dogs with there's so many different flea and tick treatments. I actually use one that's called Brevecto. It's a pill, but there's other ones. I'm sure some of you know, if you have pets, that some of those topical treatments lose efficacy depending on what part of the country that you're in. It's almost like over time, the ticks and fleas there just kind of get used to it, and then they kind of evolve around it because their lifespans are so short. But I have found Brevecto is something that they have not built a tolerance to yet, and it's a pill you give once. It lasts 3 months. This is some of the best protection that I have ever personally had with my dogs, so that's why I use it. But then, so if you use flea and tick preventative on your dogs and they're going in and outside and all that stuff, or you go hiking with them a lot like I do with mine, that is going to help mitigate the issues with any sort of tick infestation in your home, because they're dying usually, or they're getting killed while they're on your animals. But the ways to prevent them, I know we were going to say how I got involved in industrial automation.
We can wait. You're on a roll.
Yeah, I'll do it right now.
Don't interrupt the flow. Go.
Everyone's itching right now. Okay, how to prevent them from getting on you. Okay, everyone wants to say, oh, well, there's the special deep wood stuff. I think for vanity and just for making more sales, they sell repellent stuff. Sells one specifically that say ticks.
Okay.
I don't like any of those. I don't think they do anything. If you want to put that on you, sure, but then also use permethrin. Hold on, let me unblur my background if I can.
Unblur your laundry.
Blurred backgrounds, man.
I know. Well, is there a way for me to edit my screen post? Oh, here we go.
Just settings, I think.
Let me do a non-blur. My dog is right here, so I was trying to kind of blur him out, but Okay, so permethrin. This is like my favorite. This is the Sawyer brand. I get like an industrial size can in bulk off of Amazon, and I can link it afterwards. But this is the best stuff that I have ever seen, and it repels ticks, chiggers, any sort of like, well, unfortunately, like spiders and stuff. But any sort of crawling insect that comes into contact with this, they will die. And so I make sure before I go outside, like I almost every single day I'm spraying myself. I spray them in like the high contact areas. I will say if you get it on your skin, they do say don't put it on your skin. It's not the end of the world, but from personal experience, if you get it on your skin and you sweat while you're outside, it will burn a little bit, but it's not going to like kill you. And it's better safe than sorry. But I wouldn't like, you know how like with off and stuff like that, you can actually spray it on your skin. This isn't like that. This is specifically for fabrics, boots, clothing. I treat, since I go hiking with my dogs twice a day, I treat the inside of my car, like the seats and the seat cover and stuff. I treat my blankets, like the tops of my blankets and some of the air, because my dogs sleep on my bed with me. So anywhere where they're basically in contact, I treat those. The dog beds, the carpet, if you want to, things like that. I will say, just as a precursor, this wet permethrin is toxic to cats and it can kill your cats. So if you're going to be treating a specific area, make sure your cats are out of the room. I think actually Kathy Rinney, what they've been on your show before, she actually asked that there was a post a couple months ago about ticks, and she said like, oh, I thought I couldn't do it around my cat. You can. You just have to wait until it's dry, and then you can let the cat into the room. And you'll know, like you'll feel it. It dries, it goes on kind of like, here, I'll just spray it give it a good shake, and then just, you know, it's like this.
They also big shout out to Kathy at FlexLine Automation.
Yes.
Huge friend of the show and genuinely one of the best people I've ever met. If you don't know her, she's a big ambassador for A3, the Association for Advancement of Automation. I think everybody knows what that means, but the company, the organization that runs Automate, and just an overall general like veteran in the industry that is super genuine and supportive and willing to help people and just an open book. And she owns a farm as well, and rescues a lot of animals and stuff. So I bet that, you know, is a topic near and dear to her heart. And then while we're on a slight break, I want to give a shout out to, I'm not going to read this whole comment, but to this last long comment, whoever this is, thank you for attending and sharing. He just is new to industrial control systems and is in the wastewater market. And then I think, you know, there are definitely also opportunities where our work takes us outside, right? To skids or to places where there may be potential ticks that you would encounter in the work outside if you're doing any of that. So this is also, I think, relevant to our industry in the sense that, you know, if you're stuck out there doing any work on any of these remote systems, then think about protecting yourself.
I think there's also a misconception that like us techie nerds or engineer types like are inside in front of a screen all day, but an alarming number of us, I think, hunt, hike, camp, you know, we're outside.
Well, and what I think about, like, I know that sometimes, like, I've actually witnessed it on a site before when Tracy Williams, that's how I got into industrial automation in the first place, he took me around and like there were control panels outside on like the side of a road in a ditch in like a bunch of tall grass. And I was like, oh no, I didn't bring my permethrin. Oh no.
I recently saw a post by someone that saw a WinTech HMI on a control panel at a rest stop on the side of the highway.
See? So like, and who's going to be working on those? Like, it's probably engineers. So anyway, so that's why I thought, like, even though it's kind of like a weird passion of mine and all that stuff on the side, I was like, this is actually very relevant because it's you guys are out there. If you don't care about nature, but you might have to work outside in it. And this is just, you see them a lot, and ticks love to hang out on the edges of wood. I do like this. So a quarter of a cup in the rinse cycle, my outdoor clothing becomes repellent itself. So it's actually interesting that you say this because I had this thought a couple of months ago where I was like, you know how they have that like antibacterial laundry stuff? I was like, why don't they make it why don't they make a permethrin wash for your clothes?
Yeah.
Because somebody said, he goes, you get the permethrin bottle that says it's good for 6 outfits. So actually, and that is good for your hunting clothes. You really rarely will find one, or if you do find one, it's dead. My favorites are the ones where I treat my clothes all the time and I think I'm safe, and then I find a dead tick on like a very intimate area on like a jacket that I had, and I was like, oh well, at least the permethrin worked. I didn't think it would get on me there. But so actually, anyway, that's a really good. I've never heard of somebody actually using it in their rinse cycle before, and now because I had that thought a couple months ago, you make me curious, and I'm probably going to run an experiment. So thank you. Because actually, I can run.
Also an inventor and a product creator,
product developer. Yeah, well, that's a whole other.
So now. I don't know if this sparks anything for you, Emily, but if nobody's making a permethrin rinse for clothing.
Well, apparently all you need to do is just put it in your wash so that you don't need it.
You also know it's all about marketing, man. If you had a website that actually told people how to do that and the product itself said it's for that.
For sure. And then that would be, I'm in the licensing space or trying to get stuff licensed. And so that would be easily licensable to like, Procter and Gamble or whoever does all that stuff. But actually, so I'll probably run an experiment. So this is what's called a flag. So this is what I used to do to collect ticks out in nature. So we actually did multiple ways of collecting them. We actually put a big white cloth. It was this size. We put it on the ground, and then we put a special container that we made out of foam, like coolers that would leak dry ice out into the woods. So this is how we would sample ticks. We'd set up those tarps, we'd put dry ice in the middle, and then we would leave it overnight with double-sided tape all the way around the edge. And then the ticks would be drawn to the dry ice. They would get caught on the tarp. And then the next day we would pick it up, fold it up, and we'd bring it back to lab and pick off each individual tick. But when we picked up the tarp, we would actually, like in the woods, in the ground around the area, we would actually also flag for ticks. Because there were usually, maybe they didn't go on the tarp, but they were in the area. So anyway, now I'm going to run, you told me this, I have it here. I'm going to run an experiment now with putting this through the wash, and then I'm going to go out and collect ticks. So thank you for the content ideas.
Well, apparently it's also very common in South Africa and Namibia to use permethrin in the wash if people are not in the city.
Whoa, I'm so happy I'm learning something today.
I love this. Everybody
That's what's great about this community.
That is what's great about this community, but it's also what's really great about this topic is like everybody wants to share their stories. Like I can't tell you how many times like I would give webinars and stuff back in the day when I was doing this research and traveling around, or not webinars, I'm sorry, I actually gave in-person seminars because I would get invited places. And like so many people would just come up to me afterwards and be like, let me tell you about, sorry, my Southern accent because this is Alabama. Let me tell you about the time I had a turkey tick on me, which is a colloquial name for a Lone Star tick. But anyway, yeah, that's really interesting. So now I'm going to, maybe I don't need to run an experiment. I just need to do it. I love that. So actually on that note, let's break out the Lyme disease awareness guy.
Okay.
So let's just say you come in from, all right. So we talked about preventative on your dogs. We talked about, permethrin is probably my favorite personal defense since we can't put flea and tick medicine in between our shoulders, which is unfortunate. So we talked about prevention. So what happens if after you come in from the woods, you've got all this protective stuff on your clothes and your boots using permethrin, your dogs are protected. Well, what now? They can still get on you because ticks are dicks, as I like to say. And they are, sorry for saying that on here, but they are.
That's okay.
And yes, and it's on brand and on topic. And they will, okay, that's just an automation comment. We'll get back to that. And they will get on you because that's their whole life's journey. I have 3 different moving life stages. Actually, I'll say that really quickly to just show you. So I have my little samples here that I collected from the wild. So you see these little guys? You can't even see them.
Yeah.
How small those are in perspective to my finger.
Yeah.
These are larval ticks. So this is the first baby stage after they hatch out of a mama's eggs. And these actually, in some species of ticks, they can also, and some diseases, they can also transmit disease at this young of a stage. So like, how much does that suck if you're like,
Yeah.
and that sucks. Like, how are you going to find that? They're crazy. And you can just,
you can't see that on your clothes.
Can you
right?
just shower that off your body, or are they like,
well, I know, well,
or stick to you?
if you go and take a shower immediately from coming outside, potentially, but their whole life, the only way that they can progress in life is if they get a blood meal. So like, they're literally made to like needle onto you and hold on for dear life. So like, I will say though, these are fairly easy to remove. You're not supposed to do this. You're supposed to use tweezers, but you can just scrape these off with a nail. But I didn't say that. You didn't hear that from me. You're not, I don't recommend touching a tick with your fingers. But then once they go from that little baby stage, this is their next stage of life. So this is called a nymph. Let me see.
Yeah.
Okay, still pretty.
So they're a little bigger, but they're tiny. These are bad. These are bad. These are bad because at that point they will probably have, if they have a disease, they will transmit it to you. And they are like, they're super small. Oh, I wish this was a little bit better.
Yeah, you can tell
there's Albert, I need a better camera. So they're a little bit bigger.
Yeah,
but they're still not great. They're still not big. Okay. And then this is for reference. This is like an extreme reference. These are, people hate when I show these. These are the ones that have been sucking lots of blood.
Oh, wow.
They're gross. Yeah. They're like full blown. They're full blown up. That's what happens if they've been on you for, this is the ones that people come and tell me where I thought it was a hemorrhoid.
No, I can see why
not
you
a hemorrhoid.
No, it just looks like a big blood ball.
Yeah, they're gross. And let me see if I can find, okay, so these are adults. Let me just actually, these don't have a blood meal in them. So just to show you for reference, the size difference.
Yeah.
So this is like the ultimate stage. And then the females, yeah, small pepper flake. There you go. And the females are the ones that then blow up to be this big. And then once they get this big, if they can make it into the leaf litter on the, like if they blow up, they eventually get enough blood and they just kind of roll off. And then if they can get under some leaves, then they will lay a bunch of eggs and then the cycle starts all over again. So anyway, just for reference, this is how small we're looking. Okay.
I'm trying really hard not to scratch.
Well, that happens.
You know the difference between me seeing those and not? Oh, I have Lyme disease now.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, fun fact talking about seeing. So there's actually a research paper that was put out that there was one documented case, I'm sure there's been more, of a little larval tick that was attached to somebody's eyeball. So, and they had to get it like surgically removed. So anyway, that's how, yes, but just as a reference, somebody probably had it on their finger.
Also, I'm just going to say it. So if somebody thought they had a hemorrhoid, that means that the tick was in their butthole, right?
Or, yeah, or on the outside of it. Yep.
Yeah.
Gross. Dude, people used to come up to me and tell me the weirdest stories. And I know dudes.
Well, ticks end up in weird places, right? Like,
well, that's what I'm about to say.
Intimate parts of your body. Yeah.
Let's let you continue.
Yes, no, that's okay. We could talk. Like I said, I could talk about this forever. Yes, and Albert, not ours. Can anybody guess or tell me? We'll do a little quiz. Can anybody guess how long it takes for a tick to get this big?
A day.
Okay, so everybody cast your votes in the comments. Okay, we'll take a little poll. What? Okay. What'd you say?
I said
Nikki?
2 days.
Okay. All right. Okay.
All right, Price is Right rules, everyone.
Yes, and I wish, actually, yeah, whoever guesses right, I'll send you like a little fun thing. I've got like a bunch of tweezers and fun stuff here. I'll just send you a random thing if you want it. So
a little tick kit.
Yeah, a little tick kit if you want. Okay, so let's just say, so now that we know what the size we're looking for, okay, now where do we check? So this is actually one of my trusty friends, Lyme disease awareness guy. And I made him for the tick event or the Lyme disease awareness event that I put on at Auburn University. And at the time, there was really no graphic that like comprehensively put together like where ticks attach to you. Everybody kind of knows like the scalp and the ears. That's kind of like common. Everybody kind of knows like the groin, and like your waistband and stuff like that. But there are more places that they find yummy. And fun fact, where they find yummy is also dependent upon what species of tick it is. So different species of ticks move more quickly than others. Like the black-legged tick, Ixodes scapularis, actually is a very slow mover. It moves very, very slow. Whereas like a lone star tick or a turkey tick, as people sometimes call them, Amblyomma americanum is the scientific name. They move super fast. Like they sprint. Like if it's still alive and you pick it up and you put it on the ground, it's gonna like, it like literally runs. It's insane. But anyway, so here are the main areas. So your head and your scalp, of course. They love like crevices and like hair. Think about like, you know, if you're a deer out in like the woods, where are they going to try to go so that they don't get scratched off? That's where they're going to go to you. So like their head, ears is like a hard place. Armpits are really popular just because it's warm, and it's usually what they'll do when a tick it gets onto you. So their ticks are just hanging out on the edge of grasses, and they're just outreaching their arms, and they're just waiting for you to pass by. Okay. So Lyme disease guy passes by, tick gets on. Usually what they do is immediately they start moving up, because usually if they move up, that's where, like if you're on a deer leg, get under their belly, get in their armpit, you know, they're not going to find it. Or they're not going to scratch you off if you can get there fast enough. So armpits are really popular. This one's for all you ladies out there. Sports bra,
underneath,
bra band. Yep, they love it because especially if they're going to hit your torso and then move up, one of the first crevicey type places they're going to get to is your bra. I mean, men too. In this day and age, you can wear whatever you want. Doesn't have to be the ladies. Belly button, lovely little hidey hole for them. They love it. The waistband. If, say, for instance, you're wearing shorts and they crawl up, they might. Hopefully they don't stop here. Hopefully they stop right here because this is much easier. But that all the way around on that, they love the upper buttocks, like butt crack, because again, it's like nice and warm.
Yeah.
Also, like especially if you're outside doing like yard work and stuff like that, they will. If they're desperate and hungry, they will attach to your wrists and your fingers as quickly as possible. The groin.
Yeah.
This is like the big creme de la creme, because nobody like you don't want to have to, and also like it's super hard to check. But as Albert once said to me when I was telling him that I was going to fire up my tick YouTube channel. Oh yeah, by the way, I've revisited my passion project and I started a YouTube channel, which I will link. And I'm going to be doing like TikTok stuff and stuff eventually, but I just fired it up again after however many years out of the game. I just needed more
TikTok.
Both. and I love talking about this stuff, and I have so many content ideas. So like just for fun, I'm going to do it. It's like a side quest from my normal marketing stuff, but I need more fun projects in my life because I kind of detracted from that for a while. But if you know it, if anybody has seen it, there is a house episode where a chick was like dying and nobody could figure out why. And it turns out she had a tick in her hoo-ha. And then house like.
I remember that episode.
Yeah.
He had to do it on an elevator because nobody was going to let him check there.
Yep. So.
But he was right, and it was in there.
Yeah. And we've got folds, you know. Same thing with dudes, though. And same thing with dudes. Like they've got a lot of folds and parts, dangly parts. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, and I'm sure that some dude watching on this stream has actually, and I'll just go ahead and say it because it is a health concern, that there actually ticks have been in pee-pee holes before.
All the way inside, yeah.
In the hole, because that's a fun crevice and it's like dangling down. And anyway, I can't tell you how many grown men after talks that I would give came, well, I had a split stream and I had no idea why. And I looked down and I had a tick in my pee hole. And I was like, thank you so much for sharing that. I love that story. Thank you. I love it. So anyway.
I wonder how many are like, right now, I'm like, oh, I wonder.
Knowledge is power is all I can say. Thank you.
So anyway, they will go anywhere. If it is a nice, warm, dark crevice, they will go into it. Continuing down the body. They love the inside of thighs because again, if you have like tight pants on, say you had like flip-flops on and you're out in the wild, which I would not recommend. they can like get up your pant leg, and then usually the pants start getting tight up the thighs, so then they just kind of hunker down. Same thing around like the knees and the like, especially where it like folds and stuff. And then of course, if you're out in flip flops, check your like, or at the beach. The ticks are at the beach too. 0 vacation from ticks. Oh, that's a cool. You want me to tell you about a story from Martha's Vineyard about ticks on the beach? Okay,
Sure.
So, let me tell you more.
I thought it was safe at the beach.
No, never. So there's just different types out there. So I was actually about like, let's just say 20 feet from the dunes at a beach. It was on this nice island, but it was on Martha's Vineyard. And all of a sudden, I have like, I call it tick dart. I have like tick radar. I see like movement. And another way to identify ticks is they usually are shiny. Like they kind of reflect light. So it's going to be different than a leaf that just kind of like is matte colored. Ticks, I find that like I always look for shiny. Even the babies are like, they just reflect light. And that's how I usually find them. But also you want to like actually check yourself well and all that stuff. But anyway, so I see this like shiny movement out of the corner of my eye just on the sand, and it was a tick that had come all the way 20 feet from the dunes to try to come and get me on my beach towel. And I said, ugh, that's gross. But I have this problem. I didn't have a knife on me at the time, but I also have this like personal flaw where I don't like killing stuff. So I won't like cut. I don't like killing stuff. So I was like, and this was me being naive before I got involved with all of this. I went and I was like, you know what? I'm going to bury it in the sand. And if it comes, you know, if it survives, good for it. So I went and a couple inches under the sand, I buried it under the sand. And sure enough, 10 minutes later, I'm pretty sure it was the same tick was back on my beach towel. And so they will come and they will, yes, you got to appreciate the persistence, but they will come and hunt you down. Okay, so now you have, so the tick hunted you down from the dune you were trying to avoid, or you were trying to like enjoy your beach time, and now what? Well, now you have a tick on you. So I'm sure everybody knows, but like tweezers are a great way to do it. Or to remove them. There's also this cool new tick tool that I found recently. I haven't been a fan of tick tools. Actually, this is why this tick tool was invented recently. And I found out about it in my like little invention groups that I'm part of. And so I'll probably link that because it does seem really cool and I want to test it out. But what you do is you want to get as close to the skin as humanly possible, like remove all the hair, make it kind of stay up, the tick stay up vertical. You want to get as close to the hair as humanly possible and pull before it releases.
Okay.
It's gonna tense. It's gonna be uncomfortable. Don't be surprised if for a couple days after that, like you get a lot of redness that doesn't, and as long as the rash, if you get a rash, as long as the rash doesn't spread, you're probably okay, but you may want to go to a doctor, especially if you live in a place where like Lyme disease or other tick-borne illnesses are really prevalent. You might want to go get it checked out. But that's how you remove a tick. And don't flame. There are a lot of misconceptions like, oh, well, if I take a match to it and I burn it off of me. No, because sometimes what'll happen is the ticks will panic and then they will regurgitate their contents out. They'll like panic and they'll actually regurgitate everything that they just did back into you. So you can get sick that way. Just pull them off with this. And if you want to, then flame them after they're on your body so you don't hurt yourself. And then you can cut them in half. You can burn them. I went to my doctor the other day actually to get tested for anaplasmosis because both of my dogs tested positive in an antibody test recently. So I just wanted to go get tested just in case. Results haven't come back yet. Unfortunately, I was trying to schedule it in time for this so I could have something to say. Didn't do it. But she was so sadistic. She's like, I like burning the ticks because I like to hear them pop. I was like, you're psycho, and I'm going to go see another doctor now. But there are some people out there that enjoy that. But don't wash them down your sink drain.
Okay.
Can you guess why?
Because they'll crawl back up.
Yup. I've done that. Yeah, hard pass. So either if you're okay with kill them there by cutting them in half or flaming them or drowning them in alcohol, although it does take them a couple days to die being drowned in water or alcohol, by the way.
Can you brush them like another bug, like just with something
You can try, but they're usually, unless they're big and blown up, they're actually quite, like, they're meant to be, they're flat. They're literally called hard ticks. Like, that's what their classification is. So, like, sometimes you might not crush them good. Yeah. So I always recommend cutting them in half or flaming them or drowning them, but you need to let them drown for a couple days and make sure it has a lid on it. Or what I do is I flush them down the toilet and I make sure that I watch them go down the drain. And I say, in my logical mind, that doesn't really make sense. I say, well, they might survive, they might not. That's dependent on them and their will to live. And so that's in God's hands, not in mine. So, but yeah, make sure you see them go down, because if not, they could crawl back up again, which is insane.
And now they're in your toilet where you sit your butt.
And then you're going to get a hemorrhoid. So circling back to the question of how many days does it take for them to expand like that and get nice and big? It is several days. So David Turner said like about 4 days. Mm-hmm. It really just depends on several factors. If they had a previous, let's just say they were on a deer, but the deer scratched them off somehow, then, and they come to you next, they could have already been on they already could have had a blood meal a little bit in them. They're just trying to complete that blow up phase so they can like actually lay some eggs. So yeah, it does take several days. So David Turner, I guess average, I think you're the winner.
So yeah, I saw a 3 and a 4 in there somewhere.
Yeah, and again, like it depends. Like, yeah, you could get a 3-dayer if the tick was just on an animal before you. But if they haven't had a blood meal, it is going to take anywhere from like 4 to 7 days, I think, is the average. TikTok on TikTok. Yes, that is it. But yeah, I know that we're coming up on our time here. And I think as far as my show and tell goes, that was it. I feel like there was something I wanted to touch upon. So we remove them. They're on us. We remove them.
Is there anything that one can do? Like you said, if you get a tick, you remove it.
Yes.
Potentially go get tested for something. Is there anything that you can do to try to prevent once you have had a tick on you? Like when you step on a rusty nail, you're supposed to go get a tetanus shot, right? Yeah. Is there anything that like you could do or should do to try to prevent becoming ill? Or it's kind of like you either got ill or you didn't, and you just need to go find out which one?
So I know that it was really popular about 10 years ago for people to save ticks. And then there were several groups around the country that would actually accept your ticks and test it ahead of time for tick-borne illness, just in case, as kind of like a diagnostic tool. I'm not sure how popular that is anymore. And since I've been kind of out of the game for a while, maybe somebody in the comments can enlighten me if they still do something like that. But basically what ends up happening is you could go to a doctor. You could say, here's the thing. If you've had a tick attached for several days and it's blown up, it's big, you're probably going to want to go to a doctor. Depending on what part of the country you live in, they might go ahead and give you antibiotics ahead of time. But I know that doxycycline, which is usually the antibiotic used to help combat some of these tick-borne illnesses, it's pretty hefty. It's like really hard on people's systems. So they might just wait. The biggest thing is the symptoms of like a spreading rash. Depending on the illness, there's different rashes. And also, just because you have the illness in you does not necessarily mean you get a rash. So sometimes there's like all these different symptoms and things like that you have to look out for. It's like lethargy, achy joints. There can be issues with like sleep. I will share this digital version. It has all the information that one would need, like the Tick 101 starter pack.
Okay, great.
But like Lyme disease is pretty well known because it's like a lot of people talk about it, but there are others as well. So like Lyme disease usually has this kind of rash and it'll like spread. Okay. But not necessarily. Like it can be.
And for those that are listening, it's kind of like a bullseye. It's red in the middle and then it has a ring around it.
So like this one. Like those. Okay. But then these are also potential. I'm sorry, I'm not used to my video coordination. These are potential rashes as well. So like I said, I'll attach the digital version of this so everybody has it as a reference.
Yeah.
But then also the interesting thing is, so the bullseye isn't necessarily like if you have a tick attached and the redness goes away within a couple days, it might itch really bad. that's not the rash that we're talking about. What we're talking about is a rash that like kind of gets worse and worse. Offer any benefit? Just no. The suction tools, I think, are a lot of like vanity thing. Just get it. What you might want to do is like remove the tick fingers and then use the suction tool afterwards, just in case some of the mouth parts got stuck in your skin. But the mouth parts staying in your skin isn't the worst thing in the world. It's probably going to itch afterwards, but that's not the thing that's going to cause the disease. The thing that's going to cause the disease is the tick being attached to you for a prolonged period of time.
Okay, so just trying to make sure that if you do get a tick, getting it off quickly. So like sweeping yourself when you come in is kind of one of the best prevention things.
Yes, 100%. It's not always a bullseye. Exactly, Jim. That's why I said like some of these are also candidates. Also, if you live in the southern part of the country, this little spotted fever rash is also a potential for Rocky Mountain spotted fever. If you remember, I mentioned earlier, this is the one that if the tick remains attached and it has Rocky Mountain spotted fever, this can actually kill you within a couple days if you don't find the tick. So yes, in some, just like do tick checks.
Yeah.
And your pets can also get these diseases as well.
Jim said here as well, it takes about 2 weeks for illness to start. So testing right away may not detect the illness.
Yes, and it's kind of like COVID, you know, like by the time you already have symptoms, if it's like it's not necessarily, it's like been in your system. However, I will say, and again, I'm not trying to be too controversial here, but I have heard, and like, you know, people can fight me about this, and that's fine. But I'll say it just because I don't mind saying it. I am not a doctor as a prerequisite. However, there are people I've had many people tell me personally that they only had a tick attached for like a couple minutes and they were sick. They almost like felt weird immediately. And again, this could be because they had a blood meal beforehand. They come to you with a partial blood meal and then now you're the victim, so to speak. So really the end of the day is like just doing everything you can to prevent the ticks from getting on you in the first place is like, that's why I'm always saying permethrin, I can't tell you how many times people come with me on hikes and I'm just like, hold on. And I just like spray them down. So like, that's the best thing you can do. And then of course, the second line of defense is like the poor man's lazy version is just go take a shower when you come in from outdoors. And then the more like crazy version is like you and a partner or a friend or whatever, like do a tick check fully naked. So like, those are kind of the best ways to prevent. But
I have an idea. Can we put a link? Can you buy that permethrin that you were talking about, like on Amazon or something?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So let's put a link on our Automation Ladies like store on our link tree. It's not something that we've done a whole lot with. We have, you know, like one item there, but I've always wanted to have like resources and things, and so why not? We'll try to put a link to buy Emily's recommended tick stuff, and then she'll have her own, I'm sure, things like that related to your channels and things like that. So like follow Emily for that stuff, not us, but doesn't help to have resources in more than one place.
Yes. So we should probably start wrapping this up, right? Because we're at the end of the hour here, which is really. Should I go into my like brief thing about how I got involved in industrial automation?
Yeah, and then end that with kind of, you know, what you want people to know or connect with you about other than ticks. Now that we've covered all the tick stuff, and the links to your tick channels and all those things and the resources will be in the show notes. But yes, related to automation and what you do with us and why you're here on Automation Ladies, would love to.
Of course. And thank you, Dad, for bragging on me about, yes, I used to make radio appearances and things like that. And that's actually how I like got the nickname Tick Chick, because like at the time when I was doing this research, I was giving a lot of talks. And so they're like, we have the Tick Chick here. Anyway, so yeah, so how I got involved in industrial automation. So actually in my mid-20s, after this job came to an end, it was a term position. It only lasted 3 years. I kind of had like a quarter life crisis. And at that time, I was like, what do I want to do with my life? And I actually was already kind of for friends doing a lot of editing for scientific manuscripts and things like that. And, you know, creating stuff like this and giving presentations. So I actually decided to start my own business doing scientific editing and writing for people. And then that kind of like slowly evolved into me trying to just figure out how to make business work. And I dabbled in invention for a little bit. And then at the time I was bartending and I met some guys there who were engineers. This was during COVID or like right, like soon after all like the shutdowns. And in Alabama, we didn't shut down that long. And I heard these guys talking about manufacturing, and I was like, and automation, and I was like, yo, I hear you talking about manufacturing. I gotta get my invention made, not related to ticks. I need to get my invention made. Can you tell me more? And it happened to be Tracy and his buddies. And we just started talking. They would come in all the time after their shift was over, and engineering is stressful. So they would always have like the best kind, and Tracy now, he loves to party.
So shout out to Tracy Williams, owner of Trace Automation.
Yes.
Friend of ours in the industry in Tennessee, right? Now,
yes.
Somewhere close to
Tennessee. Yeah.
Yep,
That's what we hung out with him last time.
Yeah. And hopefully he'll still be coming to OT Skatacon. And so anyway, we met, and he's like, I really like your vibe. Like, let's do stuff together. And so slowly, basically over time, it just evolved into me doing more and more marketing and experimenting with like LinkedIn. And then that's when I became the LinkedIn catfish for him, doing lead generation and like in his DMs, and then also doing content creation for him. And he loved you guys. He's like, I really want to meet him. So we went to Automate together, and then that's when we met you guys. And so I've kind of just been in this industry now for the past, like, I think 4-ish years or so. And it just kind of, my writing and research just kind of evolved into me doing, and apparently my graphic design and marketing skills that I've had for a really long time have just kind of evolved into what I do now with my company, Clear Lead Marketing, where we do lead generation and content creation for B2Bs. And obviously I've been working with the automation ladies, helping them with a lot of their content for, especially OT Skatacon, a little bit for automation ladies.
You've helped me and Albert at Fast One with some things.
Yes, with your articles, with your blog articles.
Yeah.
I saw you also helped Allie write a couple of articles based on like just pulling together her thoughts and her LinkedIn posts into like more of a long form article, which was one of the things that really I liked. And then honestly, the content you made for Tracy, for Trace Automation, like it's hard to find people that can speak our language. So I know I've tried to work with many people in marketing. They just don't understand our industry well enough to produce something that makes any sense or that sounds like it actually comes from anybody that knows anything. And so I was really impressed with a lot of the content that you and Tracy put out. And I know that it was so good that in some cases, companies like Ignition or Inductive Automation were sharing the guides that you were creating. And so it's just, I think you're a hidden gem in the sense that like, that's a rare skill set to put together. Somebody that has all of that marketing background and like the drive that you have, the background in the scientific writing. We're technical writing. It's a little bit different, but it's, those skills are very transferable. And now after having worked with us for 2-3 years now, I'm sure like your industrial automation knowledge and your ability to discern what's what in our stuff has just gone up. And I recently saw the launch page for Vinny Endress's Level Command.
Yes.
Which is a really cool, kind of standard product that he put together after integrating radar level sensors in a lot of grain bins and hoppers for farmers. And he's, kind of marketing it now as a standalone product that comes with the sensor and the control system and the HMI and everything. And Emily helped write the landing page for that and launch that product. So if you guys, are looking for any kind of support on optimizing your LinkedIn pages, which he's done for me in the past as well, doing any kind of outreach, email marketing, lead generation, or writing copy for web pages, graphic design, like all of that, I will highly recommend you, Emily. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No, I love it. Thank you.
But I think sometimes it's easier, it's a lot easier to hear other people say that kind of stuff than to try to say it about yourself. At least I know that goes for me. So I wanted to give you,
my whole is she asks questions. Like you ask relevant questions when you're trying to help with something. And I don't think a lot of people do that. I mean, heck, you're in a group chat with a whole bunch of us saying like, did I connect this washer or this dryer cable correctly? I'm like, wow. I mean, you just want to figure it out and how to do it. So I'm impressed by that.
Yeah. Well, like I always kind of say that you don't necessarily need to know what this expertise is. You just need to know the questions to ask to make sure that you can like translate that efficiently.
That's another thing. One of our friends, Megan Zimba, she's a technical writer. She has a degree in technical writing, but she's really become a major voice in our industry because she has she wants to hear the story and then she can translate the story. And it's really not her words. Like it's her translating those stories and making them accessible or relatable or whatever. And, you know, you don't have to be the person doing the work to be able to be a very valuable member of like the work that's happening. And then so many people, I think, in our industry, they do so much valuable work and nobody gets to know about it except for the one client or something. And a lot of people, I think, could use help getting the word out about what they do.
Yeah, well, and a lot of that is just like I like to joke that I'm just a glorified copy and paster. A lot of the times how I create content is I just talk to somebody, the expert,
yeah,
and then I pull what they say and just turn that into content, and then ask clarifying questions, and then come up with some pretty graphic to go along with it, and then boom. So, anyway,
yeah. And then boom. So on that note, let's end this. Real quick. What if people listen to this and they're not going through the comments to click on resources and stuff, what's your CTA, your call to action for people to follow you, or what they should be looking for or contacting you for?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll start with Clear Lead Marketing. So I'm on LinkedIn, just Clear Lead, CLEARLEAD space marketing. And my name is obviously Emily Merritt, and LinkedIn is like my comfort zone. But then so that's for the marketing side of my identity. And then for the tick side, it's basically tick_chick on like all of the platforms. I just posted my first video on YouTube in preparation for this. So, and I did start a Tick Chick LinkedIn page because why not? Because I'm probably not going to post a majority of my content over here, but you can find me on LinkedIn. But obviously, I'm going to be posting more stuff about ticks on YouTube. Okay. And we've got a whole bunch of content that we're about to put out. So I am really excited for that. And then eventually I will put out TikToks and Instagrams. And I actually thought about Reddit the other day because that would probably be cool. So anyway, you know, it's just another client for my marketing agency sort of like aspect of things. But yeah. And then I'll make sure to gather up all the links, and then we'll post it in like the show notes and all the relevant places afterwards, so that people can actually get some helpful resources going forward, so that they're not, you know, getting covered with ticks in the wild.
Well, thank you so much, Emily, for doing this with us. And
yes, thank you.
All around amazing person in our life. We appreciate you. Thank you, Jim, for joining us, and everybody else that joined and commented. Some of you, we can't see who you are on the stream right now, but we really appreciate all your comments. And if we didn't get to addressing them, we still appreciate you commenting. And it does a lot, I think, for people that come to be able to connect with each other. So please, if you see somebody else here in the comments that you don't know or you're not connected with, we clearly have something in common, which is why you guys are here. We really like to learn from each other and grow our network. And it's not about us. It's really about all of us learning from each other. And then if you want to meet Emily Merritt in person, you should come to OT SCADACon in July 24th through the
23rd to the 26th.
Yeah, 23rd, because we're doing it 3 days this year. It's coming up fast. I think it's like 7 weeks now. And yeah, Emily will be there along with a lot of the people that were here in the comments. And we will be having lots of fun and hopefully learning a lot more. And if you're new to SCADA, which I saw some people here were more in computer science or coming kind of from other backgrounds and wanting to get into industrial automation, one of the reasons we put on this event, and this is really our other founder, Allie, she kind of is in charge of all the technical content and the speakers and everything. She really wants to introduce people to the adjacent areas of industrial automation that you may not know about, that you may be passionate about, or give you an insight and someone to connect with and talk to and be able to be, you know, in touch with after the conference. That, you know, for any one of these like 26 areas of expertise that we cover, we're not going to do a full in-depth lecture on that topic, but what you do have is a resource. You have a connection. You have someone that you can lean on. And that's a big part of it. And you will get to know people like us and Emily and stuff. And, you know, if you have a reason to get to work with her, she actually ended up working with some people from OT SCADACon as clients last year, just because I think, you know, there's so many people out there selling their services. I get lead generation. You know, all lead generators are generating leads for themselves, right? So they land in my inbox and they all think that they are the bee's knees and that they can do everything. But it's hard to judge people or services when you don't have a frame of reference. And that's why I think in the automation industry, and, you know, we do rely heavily on kind of like doing business with people that we know, and we like, you know, relationships, they last, because yes, people have different skill sets, but then there's things like, you know, just your tenacity, your ability to ask questions, and people see that in person when they meet someone. And you get that vibe, like, and Emily, you have a vibe, like you get her done, you're smart, you pick things up. And if you guys meet her in person, if you didn't already pick that up from this podcast or from this stream, you will certainly see that if you meet her in person. So with that, we're 10 minutes over. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thursday afternoon. Bye-bye.